So I have Cammy and Dobber with me from Oceans of Slumber. How are you guys?
I'm doing good.
We're great.
So what about the Banished Heart? It's been out for a minute now. So what have fans' reactions been like so far?
Very deep. A lot of excitement, but I've gotten a lot of sort of heartfelt inquiries or replies about when different people get the album. It's been a lot of opening up with different fans and just different friends about different stories that kind of have touched them with what we've done on the album. And so that's been really nice. It's been a lot more therapeutic for other people than I fully anticipated it to be. So, a really good reception, but a really meaningful one too. So that's been nice.
Okay. Did you guys ever sort of expect that kind of reception from the Banished Heart?
Yes.
You did.
Yeah, of course, because it's a real record made from a real situation, and it's not a unique situation. So us doing this, I knew this was gonna kind of open a vein up for things, and her being in the middle of it, and us kind of, the music and everything, and the lyrical content and all that stuff is so intermingled that if I knew where it was going musically, and then I also knew where it was going lyrically, and so I knew that this was going to kind of land in the spot it is, not like any kind of reception wise, but I knew that people were going to latch onto it if they heard it and had experienced these same things in some kind of way, because it's impossible not to. I do the same thing with records I like, and so the record's kind of born out of personal tragedies, and so it's like a long-term relationship of mine had dissolved, super hard, painful thing. And before all that, my daughter was born, and it, kind of changed a lot of stuff for me, and changed stuff in my relationship. And Cammy and I, we're in a band together and formed these bonds, and she had gone through a whole lot of, similar things. And that, of course, caused, problems in my normal life and changes, big changes. And we had enough downtime after we released Winter, went on tour with My Dying Bride, went on tour with Enslaved. We come home, and it was basically you guys should take some time off and write a record if you need to, because our record label guys are friends, and they were we know you're going through some stuff, and this is, take the time that you need. And so the only way to work through it was to do this. It already had some skeletal figures of what some of the music was, and we burned through the writing of this record in about 3 months.
Were you not kind of worried about, how honest you guys were being and how everyone was going to kind of interpret it and things like that?
No.
I was.
She was, because, it's as bare as she can be. I wasn't, because, what happens? What if this happens and I have the ability to summon these things and then I don't fucking do it and then I die, or, it's my loss.
Okay.
It's even going on stage, it's not a nervous thing anymore, because it's like a shut off. It's I can't see half the people up there, and you can connect with them, of course, in the feeling of it, but in what's her name? Renee Fleming. Famous soprano.
Okay.
She gave a master class, and they were like, well, how do you calm your nerves? And she was all the best performances of my entire life have been in the middle of fucking nowhere that nobody sees, and that's just how it is. And she's and the worst performances are in front of the biggest audiences. And she said, but those people didn't come there to judge me on how bad I did that night. They didn't come to judge any of that. They paid to come see me, and so I need to look at it like that. And so when we go out there, it's more of we're here for ourselves on stage, and thank you for coming. And there shouldn't be any nerves about this, and there shouldn't be any nerves of what we're giving.
There's this different sort of connection that happens, and I feel there's nothing between me and the music and my voice. It's that's my instrument, and so it feels a bit more raw for me than I feel if you have an instrument, it's a little bit, it's the music comes from, I don't know, space, and then there's your instrument, and then there's how it affects people. But it's the same as if I say harsh words to someone, or I say nice words to someone, how they're affected is there, and then you're oh, I'm sorry, I hurt your feelings or something. And so when we do these songs, there's such a hurt coming from people, and then I feel a little bit I'm I'm doing that, or which I am, but yeah, and I'm just like, so they're sad, and then that makes me more sad, and then it's this back and forth of really intense emotions, and then in the end everyone's just like, wow.
There's such a lack of this, though. And
I was going to say, it's not common at all.
That's my issue with all this stuff now. It's even whenever we were turning in our record to everybody, and they were just like, oh God, like, why are you releasing a record like this?
Really?
Not in so many words, but it's like, is it commercially viable? Is it suicide? Like, do we put out a record like this and it just pushes us into some other spot to where they're like, no, we don't want to do this. Like, we're here for just entertainment. But because metal's turned into a different type of show, and there's still those of us who are still continuing on this path of fucking moribund and it's funny to me. It's amazing to me actually to see all the comparisons to like the 90s northern UK scene, with like
Paradise Lost and things like that.
My Dying Bride mainly,
Right.
and My Dying Bride, Anathema, Paradise Lost. Obviously they're not in there. It's the going away from like the goth side of what that was, and going more into the heart, like straight pulling that out, and that's what I like, I like sad music, I like dark, and I like heavy music that's like overwhelming, and it's hard to be in a band and not do that,
Finally, what does the Banished Heart mean to the two of you?
Pianist Beno Mosevich asked, or Rachmaninoff asked him what this prelude meant to him, and he was like, it's my favorite piece I ever wrote, tell me what it means to you. And he was like, it's a very long answer, and Rachmaninoff just said, no, it's not at all. And he's like, it's a very short answer is what this means. And he's like, well, I'll tell you what it means to me. And he said, this piece is like the return. And he was going to go into the rest of his explanation, and Rachmaninoff just stopped him and was like, that's it. Like, that is the answer. That's all you have to say. And the Banished Heart is an idea of kind of like locked away or kept in a dark place, and it's like the release of that and the finding of your way, or love, or the reaching out of to drag somebody out of this spot. And so it is the return from like exile.
Thank you very much for a very insightful interview. Thank you.